Alright, let's do a little testing. This battery is pretty crappy. The battery that came with the boat is from 2012. That's even worse. That doesn't seem to want to take a charge, and you put a load on it and it goes way down real quick. This battery seems to take a little bit more of a charge, but it seems to be more like what you call a surface charge, where as soon as you put a load on it, it goes away. But I'm hoping there's just enough voltage in there that I can just do some double checks on my wiring as far as, you know, maybe hearing the solenoid click, that kind of thing. I've got my voltmeter, so I can also just test with the voltmeter here. So first I'm just going to go right across the battery, and 14 volts unloaded. So with the battery hooked up, I should have 12 volts at this point right here, which is the second connection up on the left side looking at the front of the switch box. Between that and a known good ground, I should have 12 volts. And like I said, I've got actually 14 because that battery's completely unloaded and not doing anything. This white wire here is when the ignition is on, I should have 12 volts there. So right now I should have nothing there. And I do. Now I'm going to go turn the key on. So the ignition is now in the on position. So I'm going to come back, and you can see I've got 14.6 volts. Good. So far so good. So right now, if my choke solenoid is still good, which I don't remember if it's good or not. I know I wired it, but I can't remember if it was open or if it was a good solenoid. But if it's good, I should be able to press the choke button and it should click. Okay, I just hear a very slight click. So something's happening, but it's not really pulling the plungers up. But that could be, like I said, this battery is pretty bad. Let's see what that voltage on the battery is now. That's still high. Could also be the plunger could be stuck. It's manually working it a little bit. Well, wiring wise, it's definitely working. So you can see the bottom of the solenoid right here is the plunger that goes in and out, and these are the butterflies. So this should move up like that to fully close those butterflies. I don't think there's enough power in this battery to get that to happen. Alright, so I just looked back at my own video here because I can't be in two places at once, and verified that, yeah, that's probably what's happening is the voltage. Because on the first try it seemed like it went about halfway up, and then each consecutive push of the button it lifted a little less and less. So I think that battery is just junk. So just for the heck of it, let's try and crank the engine and see what happens. Well, the good news is the solenoid's activating, which means my wiring's correct. The bad news is it's just going buzz and making some bad noises, which means, yeah, this battery is no good. Yes, you can see 4 volts, it's creeping up. That's a junk battery. Alright, I robbed the battery out of the Ford 1920 tractor. This is a good battery. It's only about a year old. I neglected to mention that I haven't run the Ford in a while. I gave that battery a quick 1-hour charge. Let's see how it does now. That might work. So those of you who have been following along for a while may recall that in the past I've had trouble starting this motor. Once it's started and running, like when I had it on the water with the former boat that, the transom tore out of, it would restart. I mean, you barely had to spin a full revolution. It would start right up. But that first initial cold start, where it needed to be choked, was always a problem. One of the things that I found was that I could reach in and cover the throat of the bottom carburetor. I think it was the bottom one. Yeah, there's 3 carburetors in here. You can actually see it better on the other side. So there's 3 carburetors in here. There's a carburetor here. This is the lower one. Takes care of the bottom 2 cylinders. And then there's one here and there's one here. Now the middle and top carburetors have the gates that go over them and act as chokes. They're not 100% airtight. So what I found was, to help me start it, I would cover this throat manually. And the problem is that, like when I would stop cranking it, take my hand off, this would dump a ton of gas. There's actually a tray by design. There's a tray here that a fuel dumps out of these carburetors. It goes into this tray, and then there's a little trough that allows it to be routed so that it dumps down and basically creates your proverbial environmental nightmare. So the reason why I'm mentioning this issue is because I was reading online about other guys having a problem with this. Some guys have even done away with the choke solenoid altogether and these flappers, and they've converted it to like an OMC style primer, where you've actually got a system that actually shoots a little jet of gasoline down into the cylinders, which seems like it would be a really great system if I wanted to implement that. But the more interesting thing I found out was these guys who were mentioning that they would have this problem starting their motor depending on how the motor was trimmed. In other words, if you take a look at the motor now, it's clearly tilted like this. So it's hard for the fuel to get up into that engine when you're choking it and you're dumping a lot of fuel into there. Fuel by gravity wants to try and run out the front of the carburetors instead of run into those cylinders where you want it. So it occurred to me, maybe I could adjust my position of my pin here and help this issue. Now the skeg on the bottom of the motor is just about ready to hit the ground. So this thing here, I think that's called a skeg, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, ideally you don't want that on the ground. But obviously, you know, I'm not planning on, I wouldn't trailer it and drag it along like that. See, that looks a lot better. So I've now got this in the pin all the way to the back there, but it's actually not even hitting that pin because, again, it can't go down any further because the skeg is now digging into the it's digging into the ground. I'll have to see if I can lower the nose of the trailer. I've got the nose of the trailer lowered almost to where it's touching the ground because it's actually on the ball hitch for the Ford 1920 tractor, which is on the 3-point. So I lowered the arms of the 3-point down. That pulls the whole front down. And now, I don't know if you can really tell from the video here, but now the motor is clearly tilted back. So now, any fuel, raw fuel, that dumps into that throat of that carburetor is going to want to run into those lowest cylinders, and it should fire. Hey guys, it's Saturday, July 18th, 2020. Welcome to another Tower of Power episode. Hopefully this is going to be a pretty good one, because today, better late than never, going to finally fire off, or hopefully fire off, the Tower of Power and get that motor running again for the first time since we put it to sleep last season. I got a fly buzzing around in here to make matters worse. It is oppressively hot today. We're looking at really, high heat index for today and tomorrow and Monday by the looks of it. Unfortunately, earlier this week, I didn't have time to get out there when it was cooler and easier to work on this thing. Now it's going to be really hot. So keep that in mind in case we have some wide shots that show me wearing the outfit I'm wearing right now. I'm sporting Dickies that were old that I cut off and turned into, but anyways, comfort is key today. So let's head out there, pre-mix some fuel, and keep our fingers crossed. I got to remove my screw from my little weep hole there, my telltale, because I put a little screw in there because every season I was having a problem where at the beginning of the season I would find that there was some sort of like a mud dauber type wasp or insect that was nesting in this line. All right, I just reattached the linkage for the throttle cable, but that's the new cable, so I just kind of roughed it. So we'll see what happens. I've got the warm-up lever to the almost all the way vertical position. Oh, I forgot to turn the muffs on. Mark! Alright, get in the boat and sit in the driver's seat. Alright, well I haven't been out here very long messing with this thing. I'm already getting a headache from this damn heat. So, I gotta check for spark. Of course, the old way with my remote setup, it was real easy. Because now I got it all wired up to the key switch up at the front of the boat, I need an assistant. So Mark's up there in the driver's seat. I'm gonna have him crank the engine so I can see if there's spark. So Mark, the switch is on the back.
Yeah.
Turn it to the right one click, that turns the ignition on. Okay, and then you're going to turn it to the right and hold it.
For how long?
Just a few seconds.
Ready?
Yeah. Gotta do it again. Stop. Do it again. Stop. Shoot.
What?
I don't know. For some reason now I have no spark. It's pretty interesting considering that all of that was working perfectly fine before. All the wiring's hooked up now. So, back to the basics. You get a voltmeter. I gotta check and make sure there's 12 volts here and 12 volts here like they're supposed to be. I wonder if there's a position on this throttle where it's killed. See that lever? Not the big one. See the small one?
Yeah.
Pull that lever all the way back. Alright, push the big lever forward. Further. Alright, pull it back.
All the way?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean all the way. Push it back so it's up and down vertically. You should feel a place where it clicks in. Yeah, right there. Alright, that side lever again.
Yeah.
Push it up. Wiggle that the big lever so it clicks in. It's not neutral. Try again. Try again. Yeah, stop. We got spark.
Good.
There's a position that lever is in. It must shut the spark off. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, choke on. Okay, we got pressure in the primer bulb. That's good. That means the carburetor should be purged, primed, whatever. However you want to call it. You can call it whatever you want. What do you want to call it?
Nothing.
Nothing? We'll call it nothing. Okay. All right. All right, let's give it a shot.
Okay. Tell me when.
Go ahead. Try again. Did you do anything?
No.
Okay. All right, try it again. Okay, try and restart it.
Push the lever all the way back.
Leave it right where it is, yeah. Okay, shut it off. Well, that's good. So the good news is it's going to run. I'm just still not happy with the amount of water that's coming out of the telltale. I mean, there's barely any water coming out of here. When the RPMs are up, it starts dribbling out, but I don't know. I'm thinking it should be a steadier stream.
Do you think the pressure's not?
No, it's, well, actually, if anything, by putting it on the muffs with the hose, we're forcing water in there even more. So it should, you know, my concern is once we get it in the water and it actually has to draw the water up and pump it through, is that going to be enough?
Why don't we try the bucket method and see if it does pump?
Because getting the bucket underneath this thing with it being so low on the trailer right now would be a real bear.
Okay.
Oh, just for the heck of it, I'm going to try and clean this out a little bit more, but the reality is it's very difficult to clean this because it goes right in here, it makes a turn. This is a fitting right here in the cowling, and it goes right, makes a turn, and goes right to a hose. Then the hose goes, actually runs right here. You can actually see the hose down inside here. Not that it matters, I'm not going to bother showing you because it only runs around the underside and goes to this lower end and goes into another elbow and then goes into the engine. And the problem is, no matter what I try and feed in there to try and, you know, push through, when it gets around to that other elbow, I can't get it to make the turn to go into the block. So I can only really put something in here to kind of scrub out, like from here to where that fitting is on this side. So I'll show you how much I've got in there. But I'm going to put my hand here just for the hell of it. See when I pull this out if any garbage comes out. A little drop of water came out with just like a little smidge of something. But I mean, that's how far I had that in there. Well over a foot. And you know, you read online about problems with like this, and here's a perfect example of people want to be helpful, but they don't really know, so they give a guess. And you know, one of the guesses was this guy had a 1986 115 horsepower Mercury, and he was having this problem. And he had replaced the impeller and he was still having this problem. And the advice somebody gave, which might have been good advice in another situation, was, oh, it's probably a thermostat. Your thermostat is sticking, it's got crud in it, it's not opening like it should. He said, I replaced my thermostat and boom, I had 3 times the telltale pressure that I was getting before. Well, that's great. The problem is, this motor does not have a thermostat in it. So much for that. Let's see if I can get it to restart easy enough, and let's check that telltale pressure now. That's a lot better. Oh, hell, that's a lot better. Oh, I am so happy. I didn't see any crud come out, but I obviously cleared something with that wire.